Hello, welcome back to Adventure 82. We're at the sand dunes today. We're going to be taking a look at the P.O.W. camp that used to be here, not in the Second World War, which is what we've done before, but this is actually the First World War. It starts over there, which is where we're going to go in a minute, and if we've got enough time and I have enough camera battery, because the reason my camera died in the previous video is because somebody may have washed and then tumble dried their spare camera battery. I can't imagine who that would have been. We'll also have a look. We'll also have a look at. We'll have a look at the Second World War bunker that's just behind the sand dune there as well. But let's go have a look. Oh, and Mary's with us today. Right, so it is actually quite windy today. I have all 4 children with me, so you'll see them intermittently. But you can see remnants here. That would have been the plumbing from the old P.O.W. camp. You've got a piece of pipe there. They don't make pipe out of pot anymore. I think that was, I think it's all PVC now these days, isn't it? Reinforced plastic and stuff. And I think there's also, they still do metal piping. Anyway, so we should go and have a look at the first bit of the P.O.W. camp, which is just over here. So, through the magic of editing, there will now be a massive gap. And then poof, I'll be there. Right, so we have, you can see here, the concrete base from what would have been one of the buildings. This one's quite damaged and pretty smashed up and kind of being reclaimed by the grass. This one, on the other hand, has fared a lot better. So, although it is still being overgrown, as you can see by the bushes and things. Right, so you can see here where you would have had the wooden hut built on top of the cement all the way along the foundations here. I'm not sure what the hole would have been for, mind. I'm guessing maybe some sort of drainage, because if we come back here, we've got the main, what would have been the actual door there. You come back over here and there's another door at the back here, just there, and then this seems to be split up into sections, and you can see where there used to be some sort of dividers built in, so I'm guessing this may have been like a toilet block or something. And you can see there's another one over there. We'll take a look at that one as well. Whilst we go over there, and I try and avoid the brambles, we shall talk about how this came to be. So, in 1914, the British Army got in touch with the government of Jersey and asked them if there was any chance of finding some space to build a prisoner of war camp for the First World War. And they basically allocated the space out here, which is called Blanche's Bonk, which, if you've watched my early videos following the JR&T railway, you'll know a bit about this already. Blanche's Bonk had a train station which used to take these prisoners to and from the harbour. But if you want to know more about that, I'll put a link to the video in for you. But I'm not sure what this one is. Just one big long. Imagine this would have been just one massive long hut, but considering this one's separate from all the others. I wonder if this one might have been for like the offices rather than the actual prisoners of war. But yeah, so what are we doing? Oh yes, so how did this come to be? Well, like I say, 1914, they asked they had somewhere we could put it. They gave them Blanche's Bank. And then by 1915, March 1915, it was all complete. I say it was all complete. They used 5 different local contractors to build it. And it was complete, and when it finished, it held 1,000 men, 1,000 prisoners of war, not including the military. Once they had moved in, it didn't take long. Within like 6 months, they'd hired another local builder, goes by the name Ernest Farley and Son. And Ernest Farley was put in charge of building some extensions to the site, which allowed for them to hold ultimately 1,500 prisoners of war here, plus an additional 100 military. So all in all, you would have had 1,500 prisoners of war and 300 officers to supervise them once this was completely done. Ernest Farley played another role, incidentally, in Jersey's history, although not him directly, but it was his company, by which time it had been taken over by his son, Clarence, and he built Jersey's first airport. But as I mentioned to you previously, that will be a separate video of the Jersey airport. So you can probably see in the distance these little walls sticking up out the grass. That's where we're going to next. You don't obviously want to watch me just endlessly stroll around the grass. So I'll go over there and we'll cut to me being over there. Eric is taking her pictures again. And for the only second time so far, we also have Mary with us today. As you can see, being walked by Blaze. Right, as I was saying, back to this prisoner of war camp. Right, so we've got another one here. You can see here actually where the wooden post would have been put in to hold the roof up. Not sure what this would have been. Looks like maybe some sort of wash area, because it looks like maybe this was like a sink, or maybe like a basic urinal maybe for men, and looks like there was more facilities this side. There's 3 of these all in a row, so we'll follow these down and we'll look at all 3 various conditions they're in. But you can see they wasted no time building all this. They were a bit concerned because when they came to have a look at all this area, which was already owned by the Jersey military, used as a rifle range, or part of it was, they were concerned about how the fact that, like, in places it was flat, in other places you had these big 180 feet at the time sand dunes, and the gentleman who came over to look for the UK military wasn't convinced that he was going to be able to build a camp here. Another big hole there, look at that. I wonder if that was a support post or maybe just another drainage hole. Seem to have a lot of like wash style areas, but then if you've got 1,500 prisoners, you need a fair bit of wash space. We've also got another piece here. I'm not sure what that would have been. Maybe part of the drainage maybe, but there's quite a lot of this. So next one's quite a bit way up there, so I'll walk up there. Whilst we're doing that, I'll finish telling you about this camp. So the whole thing in its entirety was fenced off, which was about 300 square yards. About a third of the site was actually sports facilities for the prisoners, so they got a fair amount of recreation, and they must have had a relatively decent life here, because in the years that followed, up until the end of the war, obviously in 1918, there was only actually 2 attempts at escape. And you'd imagine with a prisoner of war camp there would be more attempts than that, but alas, not this time there wasn't. And so yeah, they had a relatively decent life here. They were allowed to go and do things like sport and stuff. They did work as well. It was mainly agricultural work in surrounding farm areas, and obviously there were some of them that would have been picked up by the train in the evenings to do their work at the harbour. But all in all, not a bad life for them here. Prisoner of war camps, once you got to the Second World War, obviously became a lot more nasty, but that's a separate story. So all this here, this is another wash one. This one hasn't fed, so as you can see it's a bit more smashed up. Although this one, you can see here on some of them, see there's nothing there, I've noticed. But if you go to the other end, you'll have like a little, what looks like a drain pipe hole. This one, it's got it buried there in the grass. So it must come along here, and whatever it was drained down there. So I'm now thinking maybe this is sort of like a trough layout where they could all wash their hands at once after working before meals, and then they had the toilets the other side where they could urinate, and obviously regular toilets up at the other end, maybe in the washrooms, because it was predominantly men that was here. I don't think there was many women, if any. They even used to actually allow the prisoners time down on the beach, just over here on St One's Bay. I've actually got a picture of them playing on the beach. So I'll put that up for you now as I'm talking about it. But you used to get, sometimes their recreational time wasn't always spent sports, sometimes their recreational time was spent, they were allowed to go on the beach, swimming, that kind of thing. The whole camp lasted until 1919, when it was eventually shut down and just abandoned. Here we go, look, this one's got a good view of what I mean about the drainage hole. And then some bits and pieces, I believe, were reused by the Second World War when the Nazis came over here, but predominantly not. When it came to the sand dunes, the Germans, when they came over, were more concerned about, when you got to the Second World War, more concerned about sea defence. So you'll find that, like, they were looking for the higher places to put bunkers to guard things rather than thinking about keeping any kind of prisoners here, apart from the forced labourers here. Although there wasn't as many over here as people believe, there was still a fair few. Right, there's some more bits over here, so take a look at those and we'll have a look around and see what else we can find. Right, so I actually thought there was only 3 of those wash areas, which you've already seen they've had 3. But no, there's another 2. The first I filmed just over there, and since there's 2 more set behind here, see a similar kind of layout with your half pipe one side. But this side doesn't seem, yes it is, look, you can just see the wall there. So it is the same layout. This one's got a nice clear end, so yeah, I reckon this probably was these must have been washrooms, just like for your hands and for the men. So I reckon the other washrooms we saw, the ones at the very beginning with the separate cubicles and stuff, I reckon those are for the officers, or maybe only if He needs to do more than pee, basically. This one's in very good nick. So that gives you a very good idea, apart from the weed on the end, what this would have looked like. Meant business too. Look, there's big chunks of metal in this. What I am finding quite difficult, although not overly so, is trying to tell the difference, but definitely seems to be a case that these pebbles in the stone are probably indicating it's World War I rather than II. And then you've got a step down here. These must be very basic. I'm guessing they just had like pillars. You can see they've got a bit cut at each corner. And again there. So I'm guessing that you have had two or one wooden pulley in each corner basically that then held up the roof. And just kind of a bit like a shack. So it's like an opening either end. So there wouldn't necessarily be a doorway, because the doorway may have been built in here, kind of where I'm standing, or where Blaze is on the other end. So you wouldn't necessarily see any remnants of a doorway, because if the whole thing was built out of wood, you would only see what's left of the concrete. So obviously the wood would have been repurposed. And even if it hadn't have been, I think, with someone's way it is, it would have had its way with it by now and be gone anyway. So, right, I've just found some bits I wasn't expecting. So we've got a section here. Looks like that might just be like drain access or something. There's issues with drainage, but it must go underneath. And then it comes out here. We'll have this concrete slab in the middle, and there's more underneath there. But you can see, come down here, the massive chunks of metal they've put in this. And you can see it's a different layout, which is how you can tell the difference between the First World War stuff and the Second World War stuff. The Second World War stuff was very much German reinforced concrete. And this isn't, if you look, it's been made from the pebbles and stuff from the beach. It's a completely different mix. But still very, very solid. So, we'll take a look up here now. This one's interesting. I think this looks to me anyway like it might well be a case of a building that's been demolished and fallen over a bit. Anyway, let's go over there and have a look. So you've got another remnant there. And then see, it gets quite curious once you get up here. So there's, well, it's just a rabbit hole. But so you've got this massive slab of concrete here, and this looks decisively more Second World War German concrete, if you ask me. I might be wrong, but to me it does. It's a big chunk of brick wall here, another piece there, another piece, I'm guessing, of the same brick wall here. So I wonder what was here. I'm tempted to think that maybe all these mounds, including the bit maybe there, where there was a building and I've knocked it down and then nature's just taken it back. So when you look at these old things, the one thing you learn quite quickly is Mother Nature is very good at taking back the space you've taken from her once you leave. Another remnants of these huts. These concrete sections were built to last. They're not like they've broken up and disappeared. They've literally just, the moss has just grown on top. This is a massive area though, this one. So you must have had, so you had two washrooms we just saw over there. Behind that there's two huts. There's a hut here. I'm guessing there must have been probably another one here. You've got three more washrooms there. Maybe another hut this way as well. So that would have been three. It's an extensive layout. It's hard to tell now though, because there's not many clues as to the full extent of the layout. And the picture I've got of here, which you may have seen by now, I'm not sure when I edit it in, Doesn't really give much away. They're all in kind of military grey, kind of so in a row all the way along. But of course, that's not how the remnants have stayed. So some bits have been removed entirely, some bits haven't. But it's good to know what it's for. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are curious as to just why there's random bits of concrete out in the sand dunes. Right, so I think now we've looked at our washrooms here. Looked at the washrooms there, we've covered all this and that over there. So I think we should probably go over here where I mentioned we were going to go when I finished those, before Erica found all this, and see what's up that end. So off we go. Whilst I'm stood here, I don't know if you can tell, but apologise for the hiccups. But you can see here where they went and they built a trench all the way around, and that's where your fence would have been. Just to give you an inkling of how big this area was. You know, we're starting here, and this stretched all the way back over those sand dunes and to the other side. So the camp essentially was in two halves, but it was classed as one massive camp. So this is quite an expansive area, especially when you think the island's only 9 by 5. This seems to be our last area. Looking at this, would have been 2, I reckon, of the wooden huts. Because seems to have one building here, you seem to have a gap here, and the next building there. And then, for some reason, got a slightly upset bit here. It's kind of slightly higher up. If I stand on here, you'll see. I'm not slightly higher up than the rest. I'm not sure what that's about. But, yeah. You can see here again where you would have had some more wooden huts. There's still bits of the concrete sticking out through the grass. Not much though. It's here. It's a little bit there. And that's about it. That's pretty much, I think, all there is left to find. I mean, like I say, this was essentially in two halves. It was halved by the dunes themselves. So let me just face out the wind. We'll get better sound that way. Right, so this was halved by the dunes themselves, which are behind me. So, hang on. So what you would have had, is you would have had one section of it here, most of it in fact I think was here, and then it went all the way back to the other side of the dunes there and met up with what's now Lamoille Golf Course. So of course that's been completely removed, flattened, levelled and turned into a golf course. It's been purpose built for what it is, so there's no remnants there anymore. However, I think it's worth kind of documenting this one, because I don't think many people realise that Jersey really had anything to do with World War I. See another piece of concrete there. If you look out at this, it seems to me the easiest way to tell roughly where they would have been. If you look out, and you can see all these flat areas in the grass. And wherever those flat areas are, is to do with the camp pretty much, which is why you can see all over here is all nice, flat, level for building as well. This was all levelled out by the original contractors. Some of it obviously by Mr. Farley. you can see, I mean, looking from here, bearing in mind this went back behind me, you look across there, that's a massive expanse of land. Right, this is normally the bit where I turn around and go, let's find somewhere nice and finish off the video, but there isn't really anywhere not nice out here. So I think the best thing to do is to turn this round and say that for me and this lot, thank you for watching about the World War I prisoner of war camp, and we'll see you soon in the next one. Bye.